Describe image facts. You have 25 seconds to look at an image and 40 seconds to describe it. You have to answer 3 to 4 describe images on the test day. Describe image contributes 22% marks in the speaking section. Bonus tips. Speak for around 25 to 30 seconds at least. You don't need to focus on grammar. Try to speak out at least 8 to 10 keywords from the image.
The graph provides information about Brazil's climate. Brazil's temperatures range from an average high temperature of 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit during its summer months of December, January and February to a low of just under 20 degrees Celsius or 68 degrees Fahrenheit in July. Brazil is rainiest during the summer months, peaking at around 15 centimeters or 6 inches of rain in February. It is noticeably less rainy during the winter months, with monthly rainfall of just 5 centimeters or 2 inches in late July.
The graph provides information about consumption and spending in China. There are 13 cars and 241 phones per thousand people in China. China's annual spending on defense is 1.9% of GDP, education is 2.2% of GDP, while expenditure on health amounts to 2% of GDP.
The graph shows the main source of tourists into Ecuador. Most people visiting Ecuador as tourists come from Colombia, with 27% of all visitors coming from that country. This is followed by the United States with 21% of total arrivals and Peru with 20%. The remaining 32% of tourists come from a number of other countries, not specified in the graph.
The Finnish parliament is made up of 200 seats. The centre party KESK has 26% of the seats, followed closely by the National Coalition Party of KOK with 25%. The Social Democratic Party or SDP won 23% of the votes, followed by Left Alliance with 9%, the Green League with 7%, and the Swedish People's Party with 4%. A collection of other candidates won 6% of the votes.
New Zealand's main export markets are Australia, the USA, Japan, China and the UK. Exports to Australia account for 21% of all exports from New Zealand. The USA accounts for 14%, Japan 11%, China 6%, followed by the UK at 5%. The information indicates that another 43% of total exports go to a range of other destinations.
This pie chart shows where people get the news from. The largest number, 40%, get the news from the television, but this is closely followed by newspapers, which are used by 36%. It seems surprising that the internet comes third with only 15% of people getting the news from there. Finally, only 9% get the news from other.
This graph shows the unemployment rate amongst people of different ages from 1992 to 2010. The rates for people aged 16 to 17 were the highest over the whole period, reaching 45% in 2009 and 2010. Between 1992 and 1995, the unemployment level for those aged 18 to 20 was about 25%, then dropped below 20% until 2008 when they continued to rise, reaching 27 to 28% in 2010. The levels of unemployment for those aged between 21 to 24, both with and without a degree, followed a similar pattern, beginning at about 15% in 1992 and ending at about 12% and 14% respectively in 2010. But apart from a period from about 1993 to 6, the level of unemployment was higher for those without a degree.
This bar graph shows how many tons of carbon dioxide were emitted by residents in various places. The lowest figure is for London, where only about 6 tons were emitted by each resident. The northeast was by far the worst, with about 12 tons of CO emissions per resident. It was followed by Yorkshire and the Humber with approximately 9.5 tons per resident. Residents of all other regions emitted between about 7 and 8 tons of CO2 in 2008.
This bar graph shows the growth in the number of households with Internet access over the 4-year period from 2006 to 2009. Growth has been fairly steady over the period shown at around 4 or 5% each year. According to the graph, about 70% of households had internet access by 2009. This compares to only about 57% in 2006.
Two things are illustrated by this graph, which covers a 20-year period running from 1989 until 2009. The number of overseas visitors to the UK and the number of UK residents going abroad. Both show steady growth until about 2008, although there was a slight dip in the number of overseas visitors to the UK between 2001 and 2002. In 2008, both types of travel dropped, with a particularly sharp decrease in the number of UK residents going abroad. Generally, throughout this period, more people from the UK went abroad than there were visitors to the UK.